Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm sharing one of my all-time favorite recipes, easy homemade sourdough bagels. If you've ever thought making bagels was too complicated, think again. With just a few simple ingredients and some patience, you can whip up chewy, flavorful sourdough bagels right in your own kitchen. No fancy tools required. Whether you're new to sourdough or a seasoned baker, this step-by-step recipe is perfect for you. Let's get started. I have made 3 or 4 different sourdough bagel recipes, and this one is by far the simplest bagel recipe, and the results are so good. They are so close to the most complicated recipe that I've tried that I just find it to be my favorite. So all you need for this recipe is active sourdough starter, water, honey, sea salt, and bread flour. I always prefer to use a scale. It is just so much easier. But if you do not have a scale or you prefer to use measurements, they are listed in measurements as well in this recipe that I'm using. So the first thing that you do is you add 100 grams of active sourdough starter and 255 grams of just like slightly warm water. So I heat it on the stove just long enough so it feels kind of like you can't feel it, just slightly warm. Then it's 40 grams of honey or sugar. I usually just use honey. It dissolves really nicely. And 2 teaspoons of fine sea salt. And I mix all that up together. And then it is 500 grams of bread flour. Now I am using my KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook, but it's not required. If you don't have a mixer or an artisan mixer that does well with breads and mixing firmer doughs, you can mix it by hand. It's only 10 minutes by hand, so it definitely can be done. It's just much simpler to do it with the dough hook. I do mix it a little bit, as you can see in the video here, so that it all comes together before I put it into the dough hook, and it just mixes so much quicker and gets all the dry flour pieces and bits from the bottom. So once it has all come together, go ahead and put your bowl in your mixer, and you want to mix it on the lowest speed for 6 to 7 minutes. And then once that has completed, you want to remove it all from the dough hook and kind of scrape it all together into the bowl and kind of lightly shape it into a ball. And you're going to cover it overnight for 8 to 12 hours. I usually just use like a saran wrap, but you can also use a tea towel. It's usually better if you put like a plate over the top of that, just to prevent your dough from drying out too much overnight. It is now the next morning and our dough has risen nicely. So next thing you're going to do is lightly flour your workstation, and you're going to be dividing your dough into 8 equal pieces and shape each piece into a ball. You're also going to need to line a baking sheet with parchment paper to have that ready to place your bagels on top of. So I actually used a little too much flour here. I got a little carried away. You want your workstation to be still slightly sticky. It really helps you to roll those balls nice and tight so that they have like a nice smooth skin around the top. So I will kind of push some of that away after I divide this into 8 pieces. You can also weigh your pieces if you want them to be closer in size. I'm not very good at cutting the bagels into equal pieces. I try my best to divide them into 4 pieces and then split that in half, but they're never really exact. So if you want them to be closer, you can use a little scale and kind of weigh each one and get them at least somewhat closer or exact if you would like them to be perfect. So once they are divided, you can go ahead and shape them into little balls, and then you will roll them out and get them a little bit smoother. Once they are pretty smooth, you'll go ahead and stick your thumb through the center, kind of poke a hole through the middle, and then you just want to smooth out the inner circle with your fingers, kind of in a circle until you get a nice round looking bagel. And you'll just continue that method with the other 8 or 7 pieces and put them on your tray. Once you have shaped all of your bagels, you want to let them rise for 30 to 60 minutes or until puffy. So after they have risen nicely, you want to go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 degrees and make sure that your rack is in the center. You will then bring 6 cups of water to a boil in a large stock pot. Sometimes I use my Dutch oven. I'm just using a pot here. And you'll add a tablespoon of sugar to the water. And once it starts boiling, you want to go ahead and add about 3 to 4 bagels, or however many you can fit in your pot without them crowding too much. And you want to cook them on each side for about 3 to 4 minutes. Sometimes I set a timer because I get a little impatient, and you really want to let them boil for at least 3 minutes because this will determine the fluffiness and the size of your bagels. If you underboil them, they will be much smaller and much denser. So it's really important that you allow them to boil for at least the 3 minutes. So after they have boiled for 3 minutes, I go ahead and flip them with a mesh strainer. You can use a large spoon if you don't have a mesh strainer like this, and drain some of the water off if you can, and remove them and put them back onto your cookie sheet, and go ahead and boil your next batch. I believe I ended up putting my bagels kind of like ugly side up. Sometimes I am paying more attention, and I will start boiling them by flipping them on the first batch and boiling them on the top first, flipping them over, and then flip them, and then you'll have the nice smooth side up, or you can flip them when they're completed. But yeah, this was the bottom of my bagels. It didn't make that much of a difference, but they're definitely much smoother if you remember to put the smooth side back up on your baking sheet when you're finished. So I'm actually adding the Trader Joe's everything but the bagel seasoning to some of my bagels. It's really good. My husband and I really love this seasoning, so I get it at Trader Joe's. I think I've seen it at a few other places, really similar, just bagel seasoning. I'm also adding some sesame seeds to a couple of them. That's really good. Some other options are cheddar cheese, which I'm going to be adding for a few more that my daughter really likes. It's really good. You could also do blueberry bagels, which you would mix into the bagels a little bit earlier when you're shaping the bagels, or cinnamon raisin bagels, which you also would mix in earlier before you would boil them. So here I'm going to be adding the cheese, and don't be shy with the cheese. It is really good if you put a lot of cheese on there. It gets really nice and crispy, and it's really good, kind of like Asiago bagels, but we're just using cheddar here. Once you have all your toppings on, you are ready to bake them for 25 to 28 minutes or until golden brown. And here is our results. I hope that your family enjoys them as much as ours does. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.